All right, so let me a few updates here, and I'll take some questions. First, on kind of actual baseball medical, two updates. One, Joely Rodriguez is progressing well, and we're looking at a July 15th for his first bullpen, and progress from there. One other, Wei J. Wong has kind of came in with a real mild left oblique, so he's throwing. He's continued to throw, but he's not. We're take a little time before he gets off of a mound. So I don't expect it'll be long, but it's just out of precaution there. Anything on those guys? Okay. Have one positive COVID test to announce with the player's permission. It's Joey Gallo. Joey and Joey had asked me to in our conversations thought it was best just kind of lay out the timeline so that you guys all kind of understand. And part of the reason why it was a little cryptic here the last few days. So Joey tested with our initial intake screening on June 27th. We got the initial result of a positive test on June 29th. We did and that was the saliva test through Major League Baseball. We did the nasal swab test to kind of double check, so to speak, just to confirm the diagnosis on June 30th, and that came back negative. So there was some thought that it may be a false positive. We waited 48 hours, and he took another saliva test on July 2nd, and then we got that result back yesterday on July 5th, and that was confirmed to be positive. So you guys kind of see the timeline there a little bit. So it's been, I think, 9 days since his initial positive test, which was Saturday the 27th. So he's kind of well into this process. He'll be tested here, regularly going forward until we get. He has two negatives spaced out at least 24 hours, and then any other requirements are met. He's asymptomatic. He feels great. He's isolating at home, and I'm thankful for that piece of it, that he's not having any health issues related to this, or really to anything. So that's kind of the update there with Joey. I think that's it. So I'm happy to take some questions.
Questions, raise your hand, please. If you have a question. TR, go ahead. TR?
I guess this is me. John, how big of a setback is this for not only the Rangers on a baseball standpoint, but just on a whole morale standpoint, to have a player of his magnitude to go through this?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I kind of mindset is going into this was, it's not a matter of if guys test positive, but when. And obviously this thing doesn't discriminate whether it's a star player or somebody trying to make the club. So again, I think the key thing here for us is that, and for Joey, is that he's asymptomatic and he feels good and healthy. And so based on that and based on some other experiences that we've had or read about or been told about, I feel like he should be pretty much good to go once he's cleared, assuming and hopeful that he doesn't develop any symptoms as we go. Obviously, Joey's one of our best players, so from a baseball standpoint, it's not great, but it's also really early in the process. And I think if this thing follows a timeline that some of the other asymptomatic cases have that we're aware of, he'll have plenty of time to be ready. So I'm hopeful that he's, it's approximately 2 weeks, largely the bulk of that time is already passed. And if that does hold, then I think Joe will be ready for the season.
Next question, Levi.
The stories that we've seen sort of surface over the last 24 hours with the A's and the Angels and other teams having a hard time getting their tests actually sent to Salt Lake City. Have you guys experienced any of those issues?
No. I mean, listen, we chose to start our intake testing as early as we possibly could. We were ready to start on the 25th. We had to wait till the 27th. And I'm thankful, for that. I think Jamie Reed and Matt Lucero and everybody here on our end has done a really good job of facilitating that. So I think because we had a little extra time on the front end, I think that's probably helped. I mean, we've had situations where tests or results have taken as long as 4 days. But most have not. Most have been closer to a 2-day turnaround. I think going into this, just overall, you had to have the mindset that there were going to be some kinks to be worked out. And we're trying to communicate as much as we can internally, communicate with MLB, and give them feedback as much as we can to help them improve the process. But again, I think you have to anticipate that there are going to be some issues here as you go along. It's just not realistic to roll out an operation on this scale on as quick of a timeline as we've had and not deal with some challenges. Now, we need to get those worked out, and I think people are actively working on them. My understanding is some of the things that this weekend were there were kind of some specific circumstances that led to some of the delays, around the testing here this weekend. But fortunately, we have not dealt with those exact issues here.
Any other questions? Please raise your hand. Stephen?
Can't hear. What did you say?
Stephen?
Hey, John, you mentioned that Joey is asymptomatic and feeling good. Clearly, he's one of the guys that's local that was working out here. And are there any concerns about that? Other guys he was around, I know there's contact tracing and all that, but any concerns about that and the fact that the guy was asymptomatic? Does that make you worry about other people as well that might be in the same situation?
It's nothing that we all haven't, or that we're not aware of, right? I mean, I think we all know that there's a lot of we think we know based on what we're reading. The information is still developing, the science is still developing around the virus, and the best information. But I think we all understand or expect at this point that a lot of the transmission is from asymptomatic people. I'm not really concerned with the fact that Joey had been here working out, because everybody who had been here has gone through the testing procedure and is tested negative. So I feel pretty good about that part.
Thanks.
Other questions? Raise your hand. Emily?
JD, with all of the snags that they've run into, maybe not here, but elsewhere around the league, I mean, at what point are you concerned about, I guess, those snags affecting, A, the safety of players, and then, 2, at what point does it become a competitive advantage or disadvantage based on how successful you're able to, execute the plan that is in place as far as the testing protocol?
Yeah, where it becomes a concern, or a larger concern, is if you get into the season and we're not able to get the testing results fairly quickly. I mean, I'm of the mindset that, or my expectation is, if a player or a team has testing on a Monday, that we'll probably hear back, on average by Tuesday night. It's kind of what my expectation is. I think if you start to get beyond that, then when a positive comes back, you're looking at, a longer period of exposure for others around that player, right? I'm stating the obvious, but that's just kind of spelling out what the actual concern is. And so when you get that positive on that Tuesday night, that's a big difference between finding out Wednesday or Thursday, because you now have 2 or 3 time amount of time has passed that player could have been around or infected others, and the it just multiplies very quickly. So I think the if there is there's no good time for it to take a long time, but if there is a good time, I'd rather it happen now on the intake side than once you're under, kind of up and running and the in-season testing. We're basically on the in-season testing at this point. We've had now people getting tested for second times, for a second time through MLB. So there's that. From a competitive advantage standpoint, I mean, I think that it's probably the single biggest, or if not one of the single biggest factors in the outcome of the season is going to be the teams that can manage the risk best. Nobody's going to eliminate it. We're not operating in a quarantine. We're not in a bubble. Every team is going to have some level of exposure to the virus. I don't mean to sound callous when I say that. It's just the reality of it. So the teams that take it most seriously, the teams that not just the teams, but the organizations that take it the most seriously, that can avoid, put their employees at less risk, where the people around the team are at less risk of infection. Those in communities that have less spread. I mean, those are all going to be real competitive advantages on the field, and again, they're going to affect the standings.
Other questions? Jeff, go ahead. You have a question, Jeff?
Jeff, he called you.
Hey, the schedule's going to come out today. Has there been any further discussion about allowing fans, or not permitting fans for home games?
Not that I'm aware of, or not that I'm party to.
And as far as Joey's concerned, how extensive were the workouts before camp started that gives you confidence that he'll be able to step in like he hadn't missed anything?
Yeah, I mean, he told me yesterday he's, feels as good as he ever has and as good a shape as he's ever been in. I mean, reality is that he has, these guys haven't had a whole lot of time to do anything but work out. So, I mean, I think there will be. They'd seen they would face each other in some live BPs of the pitchers that were here. Leclerc, Taylor Hearn, Cody Allen. These guys had seen live BP. They'd hit off the velo machine, the breaking ball machine. They'd been lifting, they'd been running, they'd been throwing. I think the two areas, Joey will be in good shape. Again, this is all provided that the virus doesn't develop any further and he doesn't develop symptoms. I don't want to take that piece for granted, but if we're fortunate enough and it doesn't, I think he'll be in a good shape as far as most things, his arm, etc. Seeing live pitching, getting used to game speed again, and then just some of the start and stop, base running out in the outfield. Those will be some things that we'll want to make sure that we prepare him for, so that he's not at risk for a soft tissue muscle injury.
Because he's asymptomatic, can he work out in his apartment and he can get a stationary bike and ride the heck out of it and some weights, or does he need to be inactive?
He can do some kind of light activity there. We've been encouraging guys that are positive to not exert themselves on the cardio side. But yeah, he can. I don't know what he has in his apartment other than that net and that cage, and he's been in touch with our guys here to. We have a few other kind of modalities that he can use to help prepare himself.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? CJ, you have a question?
No, Jeff asked, and I was curious about the asymptomatic stuff for Joey and what he could do in the meantime. So
Okay.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, Evan Grant?
Hey, John, as far as testing goes, you said you've started the in-season testing program. your whole team gets tested every other day, or do you have a group tested one day and then another group tested the other? Do you have tests going on every day?
Yeah, I mean, I think the testers are here just about every other day. I know they were here today. I got tested today. I'm tier 2, so I don't think I'll be tested every time that they're here. I think I'll be about twice a week. But the players will be on an every other day schedule.
And your understanding is your schedule is like Monday, Wednesday, Friday kind of deal?
I don't actually know. I think it's legitimately every other day. So I think that it may alternate.
Okay. And then the other thing on somebody like Joey, as you mentioned, it's been 9 days since you got that first positive test. The incubation period and all of that seems to be a 10 to 14 day period. If 14 days go by and he's still positive, he's not ruled to be non-transmissible, right? I mean, he's still potentially transmissible. He's still got to test positive twice.
Negative, yeah. That is the current protocol. Yes, that is the current protocol. I think as we learn more about this, these things may change, but that is the current protocol, that he would have to test negative twice with 24 hours in between them.
And then the last thing, just to follow up on what Jeff asked about fans, do you want to weigh in on your thoughts on whether or not fans should be into ballparks at this point in time?
I think we talked a little bit earlier. I mean, I'm less concerned with the fans, if we were to have fans, with their impact on the people that are on the field, because I think they're pretty well distanced back. I'm more concerned with just transmission among anybody in close contact. I'm more concerned with our employees, the vendors, the security people, and the fans themselves. So I would want, need to feel confident that we were able to keep those people safe and everyone was wearing a mask and distance from each other. But that's everything, right? We're doing as a society, right? I mean, we've got to take these things seriously if we want to put a dent in it. And I think, as we've seen, as we've opened back up, these numbers have jumped. So I mean, we've got to play an active role in trying to protect the society at large, and that directly affects our ability to play.
And do you feel confident that based on on the information you've been given, based on what would happen for the players, that a level of safety could be employed for fans?
For the play, I'm not actively involved in kind of the operations of the stadium. I mean, I have gone out and talked to our people about if we were to allow fans, certain spots in the park, like around the bullpen, is an area that I would want to make sure that that we had some spacing or some barriers of some sort, to where the players are not exposed to people coming into the park that are not tier 1 and tier 2, because we're being so careful otherwise.
Other questions? Levi Weaver.
I think I probably know the answer to this, but had to ask anyway. Do you have any further update on Ronald Guzman's situation?
No, same as yesterday. He's here. He's here at the park, but not yet cleared for full activity.
Anything else?